Greetings and salutations! Today we're going to talk about Lightstones and artifacts in BDO. Also, hi, if my voice sounds a little different, we recently got a microphone upgrade. Let's go! Lightstones and artifacts are items that have been out for a hot second, but with the rework earlier this year, it can be confusing for newer players to figure out what Lightstone set they should be using. Plus, with the new drops at Dehkia, Amplification is now a thing, which may add to the general overwhelmingness. So, I'll be going over my recommendations for Lightstone sets and artifacts for beginners all the way to Endgame. A few super quick disclaimers. While this is going to be focused on PvE, I will touch on PvP artifacts at the very end. These suggestions are going to be general recommendations that should fit most classes, so I won't delve into super niche sets for specific classes in this video. Finally, please feel free to skip around a bit if you're looking for specific information. All the timestamps will be located in the description. First, we're going to talk about some general info about artifacts and Lightstones. Artifacts are special items that can be equipped onto your character. Each artifact has a special stat associated with it. Artifacts cannot be sold on the central market with the exception of Kabua's and Dehkia artifacts, which are best in slot for PvE and PvP respectively. Each character can equip 2 artifacts at a time, and you can tag your artifacts and the Lightstones that are in them. Lightstones go into artifacts. Each artifact has 2 slots, so you can equip 4 different Lightstones at a time. All Lightstones can be sold on the central market, including their amplified versions. Equipping certain Lightstones gives you a set bonus. There are dozens of different combinations. A great place to look them all up is actually Garmoth.com. For newer players, if you haven't found Garmoth.com yet, this site will be your best friend. It has a ton of information and resources about the game. Link will be in the description. Unlike crystals, Lightstones cannot break even in a PvE death. The only time you can lose a Lightstone is if you essentially yank it out from your artifact. You can buy a Lightstone extraction tool at a blacksmith in major cities to get it removed without breaking it. Unwanted artifacts can be broken down into purified Lightstones using simple alchemy. Unwanted Lightstones can be exchanged for magical Lightstone crystals through Dehkia, but be careful because there isn't a warning screen if you're about to exchange a strike or any kind of amplified stone. Let's dive more into artifacts. This part of the video will be relatively quick because it's a pretty straightforward path to getting the best in slot artifacts for PvE. If you are just getting started as a newer player, you can do a one-time family quest given by the Black Spirit to receive some beginner artifacts and Lightstones. Keep doing your Fugar's Memorandum quests and you'll be rewarded with 2 beginner artifacts and 4 beginner Lightstones. Besides this quest, if you want different artifacts, you will have to grind for them. They drop from various grind spots, world bosses, and dark rifts. In my opinion, with how accessible the best in slot artifact is, it is not worth too much time trying to grind out all these different artifacts. The monster damage and monster damage reduction artifacts that you get from that quest should tide you over until you can start to work on your Kabuas. However, if you do decide to grind out, say, maybe another monster damage artifact, then I recommend checking out BDO Foundry for a complete list of where it drops. I can only speak to the central market in NA. There are almost always full Kabuas just chilling out on the market. It is efficient to just save up and buy the artifact as opposed to trying to get a drop yourself or try to get enough of the pieces, as you can reliably buy them for about 4 or 5 bill. Once you have 2 Kabuas, you are set in terms of PvE. Let's switch the conversation over to Lightstones and Lightstone sets. Lightstones are a little less straightforward, as the best in slot Lightstone set is going to be very dependent on factors like where you're grinding and what your current gear is. Some Lightstones are going to be easy to get and some will be more difficult due to rarity. The reason for that is Lightstones have a level of RNG about them. You can get Lightstones as drops from certain grind zones, but they will be imperfect Lightstones, and you need to pay Dehkia, this NPC, 20 mil silvers to identify them. Or you can do it yourself if you have Guru Alchemy. This will get you a purified Lightstone which you can open, and it will be RNG what kind of Lightstone you actually get. Purified Lightstones do drop from specific bosses, such as guild bosses and weekly shrine bosses. Because of this level of RNG, I recommend just getting the Lightstone you need off the central market. A good time to stock the market for Lightstones is Saturdays after reset, because that is when weekly boss shrine rewards go out and the market is flooded with Lightstones. So you can usually nab the ones you want for a cheaper price if there aren't already ones just sitting on the market. Before we talk about Lightstone sets, I feel like it's important to explain your total gear score, as understanding this will help you to determine which Lightstone set you should be using. First, switch your gear to the total stats number. Even better is to also click on what kind of monster AP you're trying to calculate, and then open your map and click on a particular grind spot. You'll see the recommended total stat AP for that area and can compare it to your current gear. This number reflects your total gear score. This includes sheet AP and DP, any hidden AP, any buffs, and so on. This is the most accurate number to use when determining if you're going to be effective and efficient at a particular grind spot. If you are too low, aka in the red, that doesn't mean you can't grind there, it just means you might be a little less efficient. Going once again to Garmoth, there is a range of AP, and you can see what AP range is going to have 100% efficiency versus AP that is just too low and won't be efficient there at all. Also important to note the hard cap AP for that spot. We'll dive into that a little later. A great beginner's set is the Wild Lightstone set, especially since you get 2 predations for free. With a little savings, you can get a second predation and an iridescent off the central market. As your gear score continues to climb, you will want to look into all-out attack. This is the set here on the screen. Strikes, fortunately, aren't as annoying to get as they used to be, but it might take a little time to save up for 2. All-out attack gives you a massive boost in AP and critical hit damage, making it possible for you to grind areas that might be a bit above your gear score. Of course, it's important to note that it comes with a nerf to your DP, so consider how high your defense score is before using AoA at a new spot. If you find yourself taking too much damage, you can counteract this by putting on a bitterness crystal or 2 to offset the damage, but if your grind is just too spicy, you might have to try again after you get some gains on your armors. Another good alternative to all-out attack is species damage. Most spots in the game have mobs that are a certain species. Easy way to check this is by, once again, going to Garmoth, going to Global Grind, and noting which type of mob is at that spot. Mobs break down into demi-human, human, Camasylvian, and Adania mobs. There is a Lightstone set for each. It's important to note that some mobs do not have a type, as denoted here by this animal symbol, so spots like Orzhikeya or Yzerhid do not have a specific species damage. You'll need 3 of the species Lightstones combined with an iridescent Lightstone to get the set effect. Most species damage is relatively easy to get your hands on these days. Even the in-game Twisted Lightstone set for Adania mobs is starting to come down in price. All of the species Lightstone sets are a good investment, but I recommend aiming for the demi-human set first, because that will help at places like Honglim, Dokkebi, Elvia Quint Hill, and eventually Tungrad and Darkseekers. Species damage will not offer the same AP gains as all-out attack, but will make for a much safer grind if you're having some issues with monster damage. So having all-out attack or a species damage Lightstone set will get you through a lot of early game and mid game. Now, what to do when you want to grind a spot but you are over that AP cap? You will get to a point in the game with just your base gear and maybe a few buffs, you're going to be well over the recommended AP cap for a spot. Remember that Garmoth chart we were looking at before? There is a number there that is hard capped for a spot. This means that adding more AP won't increase your damage more. It's like trying to add water to a glass that's already full, it's just going to spill over. This is the point where certain Lightstone sets are going to help more than sets that will just get you more AP, because they will get you more percentage damage for back attack or crit damage. 2 Lightstone sets that stand out here. First is Target Openings. Target Openings gets you some AP, accuracy, and stamina, but most importantly 6.5% critical hit damage if your strike is amplified. Second is Vicious Shadows. This gets you some monster AP, 6.5% back attack damage, and 3.5% critical hit damage if your shadows and strike stone are amplified. Now, which one to use? If you're overcap at a spot, it will depend if you can consistently land back attacks on mobs or not. So for example, a place like Elvia Trolls, Darkseekers, and Dehkia, you'll get more out of back attack damage, and for other places like Dokkaebi, Yzrahid, Aetherion, or Hex, target openings will be a little bit better. For PvE adjacent content like weekly boss shrines or weekly Adonia fights, Vicious Shadows is my go-to, but I've heard from other players that Watch Your Back is also a good option, especially for the weekly group boss shrines. With the recently added Adonia content, it is now possible to amplify your Lightstones and artifacts. For artifacts, combining your Kabua with a flawless Herald's Crystal will add 3 monster AP, 5 monster damage reduction, and 250 HP. The Flawless Crystal will likely take some time to pre-order, so for now it's likely an item that you'll have to grind out yourself. For Lightstones, heating 30 in times with a few other materials, plus the Lightstone, will slightly increase the individual Lightstone's properties. It doesn't increase the set effect though, unfortunately. General rule of thumb is I wouldn't start worrying too much about amplifying your Lightstones until you're getting close to late and in-game. You need so many end times, and we're not really at a point where they are just sitting on the market. Personally, I have my 2 Kabuas with Heralds, and the 2 Lightstone sets I have amplified right now are my Vicious Shadows set and my Adonia set. I got all of this with a few months of fairly casual grinding without having to pre-order any end times. My point is that please don't feel like you need to rush to get your Lightstones amplified if you are a newer player or a mid-game player, as there are more efficient ways to spend your silver to get gains. For the sake of completion, I'll speak briefly about the PvP-focused artifacts and Lightstone sets. There are 2 additional artifacts that you can get by grinding Dehkia 2 spots, Dehkia 2 Ash and Dehkia 2 Olens. It's possible to get a straight artifact drop, but more likely you're going to either pre-order the fragments or grind them out yourself if you want these artifacts. These are considered the go-to artifacts for PvP due to their increased protection. These artifacts can be enhanced with the Herald's Crystal, giving 6 more AP and 250 more HP. For Lightstone sets, this is going to be really dependent on what type of content you're trying to do, what kind of setup you're going for, your class, and a whole host of other factors. I'm not as locked into the PvP scene as the PvE scene, but personally I use DR PvP, and I'm using the Rigid Shield Lightstone set in uncapped content like RBF to give myself a little more survivability. If you're a hardcore PvPer, please let me know what sets you recommend in the comments. That about wraps up this video. I hope it was helpful and you have a better understanding of the Lightstone and artifact system. If there's something you still have questions about, please feel free to drop a comment below and I'll do my best to answer. Also, if there's something else in BDO you'd really like to see a quick guide for, I'm always open to suggestions. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now!